it's very visual. Everything we do, you see on the screen. And it has that thing that people that are coming to work in Browzwear, not necessarily leaving so quickly because it is really inspiring just to open the computer in the morning and have that 3D, rotating, and that makes your day already, and from the very beginning of the day.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley, in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with C-Tech. Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Meet Avihay Feld, the CEO at Browzwear. Avihay has been pioneering the development of digital technologies that enable the fashion industry to thrive in the increasingly virtual world since the late 90s. As co-founder and CEO of Browzwear, he leads the company's strategy and vision while also spearheading the creation and delivery of solutions that are making the apparel businesses more efficient and sustainable, both economically and ecologically. In addition to his experience working with fashion design and manufacturing, Avihay previously led startups with technologies for e-commerce and gaming. He is a graduate of Tel Aviv University, where he studied physics, computer science, and mathematics. Avihay Feld, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Happy to be here.
Speaking to an entrepreneur, I get so much energy from it, and especially when it's about something that people don't really stop to think about. And it's such an interesting place that you're in with Browzwear and your previous companies that you've been involved with as an entrepreneur, as a CPO, as a general manager. So many interesting things about your career, Avihay. And today with Browzwear, looking at the productionization and the creation of apparel with some of the biggest brands in the world, more than 650 brands, over 150 employees. I can't wait to hear the story behind it. Avihay, before we get there, who is this person in front of me right now?
Just your regular high-tech person from Israel. I've studied computer science and mathematics years and years and years back. And all I did back in the university was fantasizing on 3D worlds and, how would that look like way before it was really, existing for real. But yes, I'm talking about 1995. We've been discussing virtual reality. Whereas today, finally in the 2020, 2019, suddenly people started talking about AR, VR. But back at the time, it was kind of, really far-fetched. But that's what moved me back then, and that's what's still moving me today.
Apparel? Any connection with apparel for you?
Oh, first of all, I always liked buying clothes, but really
you're the one guy that enjoys buying clothes. I found it.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that there are many like me. But really the connection happened when one day I remember it clearly. I was in the middle of developing our own 3D engine and looking into 3D environments and spending huge amount of time in going around 3D spaces. And the one thing we thought is, how do you make money out of this? How do you really turn it into something that people want to use? And then it suddenly hit me, the one place that 3D in real time, by the way, would be useful is how would you then look at yourself, on the web, trying clothes without 3D? If you really want to look, you want to know how you look like, you need the whole 3D, right? The whole 360. And then that would be the very basics of anything that will connect you to how does garment fit you. And back at the time, we're talking now on 1999.
Wow.
Internet was at the beginning of it. And, it was about the same. If you look at the experience of shopping for apparel back then and today, hey, it's not so different. It's still the same catalogs with images, and you still don't get to see yourself dressed in any of the styles, even today, 2021. But back at the time, it seemed so logical for me that if I want to buy a style, okay, a garment over the net, I just need to have that same experience as I have in real life, in physical life, which, I can dress on and I can try on and I can look at the mirror and I can look back and forth, except do it on the computer. And it sounded so easy and straightforward.
Right.
And that's where the journey started.
So that the journey is starting in 1999, right?
1999, absolutely.
Is it? I was 3 years old back then. I wasn't purchasing clothes, but
oh my God.
Well, did people think the way you did? You're looking at the way consumers are going to need to digitally, feel how the product they're going to purchase is going to react in the real world. Was this, if you were to talk to people about this in the middle of the street, would everybody just agree with you intuitively?
Well, interesting question, because, on one hand, many of them, specifically from the industry itself, once we started moving inside the different brands trying to explain the idea, it was hard for them to imagine how good can it become when they are dealing with the actual physical thing. Otherwise, right. The other people who were already purchasing from the web, trying that, for them it meant more, because for them buying then and buying today is the same. It's buying, using your imagination mostly and not being able to understand what is it that you're buying. How is it going to fit yourself? So that was kind of the easy part of explaining to people who are your usual buyers. The industry was really tough. This traditional industry, which cares about every thread that goes through their creation, they were the hardest part of getting people to understand from the industry that this can actually be done on the computer. That I mean by being able to represent styles over your own body and being able to then make a decision as a shopper whether I like it or not on the web. That was a hard mission back then.
So direct to consumer, today, different. You decided to change to a different part of the life cycle of, the clothing creation from the thought process of the designer all the way to when it reaches, the customer's home via e-commerce traditionally today. Why the change?
Oh, that change happened way before. I'm talking about back in 2001 when the first bubble exploded right in front of our face. And then for a couple of years, there wasn't, direct to consumer was less of an interest of investors, and money was not going into this. But that being said, what we really understood is that with the technology that we've already developed, there's a way to see garments, in the way that they're going to look like way before you're actually manufacturing them. And that was an asset. And anyway, it kind of chimed pretty well with the idea that one day, if we come back to direct to consumer, you need those 3D assets as part of what's going to meet the consumer. But back at the time, we're talking 2001, the immediate idea was, the option for me as a manager was to either close the company or to pivot it into something else. And pivoting was not less interesting. Being able to take this 3D asset and help now the pre-production of the entire garment industry to make decision over 3D digital styles, that was suddenly realized as super interesting. That could shorten, back at the time, we talked about 2 years, of average process. Today, by the way, without us, it's still 50 weeks average of, since the get-go to your styles on the shelves being ready to...
What is the get-go? Is the get-go when, a graphic designer sits down and has this vision for how a piece of clothing would look and feel?
Almost. When you're talking about big enterprises, and this is our major clients, going all the way from the biggest retail in the world, like Walmart,
Columbia, Adidas, yeah,
and then the brands, which are the the Nikes of the world, the Lululemons, the Ralph Lauren, and so on. These guys have calendars and they have their own cadence, and for them to be able to be ready for this winter, they have started anywhere between a year or a year and a half ahead of time, depending on which garments are we speaking. When it comes to and it starts with a brief. Okay, so when it comes to a down jacket, it takes at least a year and a half to from brief to jacket is ready.
Wow.
And not only that, I mean, really using the previous methods, not only that, I mean, if you look today from sustainability perspective, it's impossible because the way it's done, I mean, once it became all globalized, is that the factories which are then usually in China or anywhere in Asia, and mostly, those will be getting the brief, or they will be getting a sketch from the designer that sits in the Western country. The Chinese guys that usually doesn't even speak the language will need to then translate, do something. That will take them a couple of weeks. Then it will need to send it. It will need to fly. You know, that immediately has a carbon footprint, which is today, you know, it's impossible to think about it because it goes once to the West. You know, what are the chances that the designer who did that would really like what they see? They would then mark what's wrong on the garment. They will write their notification, send it back again. Another flight going to China. Hey, this goes back and forth. And there you go, anywhere between a year and a half. Of course, T-shirt will take a bit less, but we are here 50 weeks of average time, impossible. Then we come in. When we come in with a 3D visualization, it's not us, it's our clients using our tools and our solution to create the samples, which are the necessity. It's the necessary evil for this industry to make decisions. But instead, when they make it with our solution, it takes, we narrow the time in 80%. Not only we narrow the time for the first initial sample, once, that person in the West is getting the 3D sample, they're looking at it, they can immediately respond on it, they can write the feedback, and they can see it. First of all, they can see it, okay? They can see it in 3D. They look at it as if it was the real garment. They can rotate it, look at it from all sides, up and down, send their feedback, and tomorrow, usually because it's different time zones, tomorrow they will get the whole thing fixed. Now they can make 100 changes to it and they will still end up in 1 week. And there you go. So bottom line, we do change the face of this industry. It changes completely. And then not only this, think about the sustainability issue. Instead of the brands taking a decision now on, we need 1 million pieces of this and then taking out to the market, trying to sell it. Instead, what we are offering them today is to sell first, then produce. Now, being able to take that true to life 3D sample, putting it in front of your consumer, understand what do they want, and only then going into manufacturing, that's even a bigger change to this industry. It doesn't really happen yet on a vast, on a mass, if you want, but I think this is part of the vision. That will actually change everything. The brands will start creating something that people really want to buy instead of throwing 50% of it. So that's what we're about in Browzwear today. But that being said, now there's a big opportunity for us to go back into consumers as well, because this is this is one of those missing links that I personally have the passion to go back into that. And I think that the people that are following me within the company and outside this company, they're also big believers in that. I mean, being able to take this asset that was used for all the decision making in the pre-production and then do whatever tweaks are required and putting it in front of you as a consumer, letting you understand how it will look on you, what is the real size, what fits you, what is the size that you would like to buy, and make that decision online. That's huge. That's huge from several aspects. Number one, because people will start buying things that today they don't really buy online because they think that they would need to actually try it on and see how it looks like. So we're hoping that will change the things. Number two, there is that thing today, which is the whole return policy, which allows you to take, to order 3, 4, or 5, and whatever number of sizes you want and colors, and then just return those that you don't want. I mean, that policy is also, it's clearly understood from the brand's perspective, but it also has its contribution to waste. Because once those elements are being returned into the brand, they're not necessarily can be put into sales again. They might come back, later from the actual season, and the brand will accept them, but then they will throw them away. So that is also a big contributor to waste. But if we can help the consumers to understand exactly what they want to shop for, they won't be needing to order, huge amount of options and then return, 90% of it. So that again is one of the things that we might be able to solve, going directly to consumers.
Incredible. Avihay, take me back to your childhood. 10 years old. What fascinates you?
I'm so old I can't remember. Yes.
What made you really curious on a really honest way? What led your curiosity in your day to day?
That will sound sci-fi. I was always science fiction for me was always that thing that I could not have enough from.
Wow, very very cool. Yeah. And today, by the way, any specific show, any specific book series that you were especially into?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. There will be, television series that were there before you were born. Now that I know your age. Okay, there was Alpha 1999. For them, that was the future. And then there was, of course, Star Trek and all those. I mean, for me,
I heard there was something called Star Trek and Star Wars back then.
So all of these, absolutely. And but even when I was more grown up, for me, when it's anywhere between sci-fi and fantasy. Whenever Harry Potter came, I would read the entire series. I wouldn't even wait for a second. That is how it feels to me.
Incredible. Yeah. Today, inspiration as a source for your leadership, for your creativity, your innovation. You've been in this for 20 years. You're still innovating. You're talking about how there's this big, huge opportunity that you're going to try to conquer. Closing the loop 20 years later. Where do you get your inspiration from?
My kids. I'm seriously, if I needed to understand something that I don't understand from you, I'm a freak of usability, and to me, if there's any window of me understanding better my users, would be either my users, our clients, our users that are actually using the solution. But really, when I want to get a glimpse to the future, I would go back and look at my kids and the way they're using the way they consume any type of technology today. It's mind-boggling. I'm telling you, this is absolutely mind-boggling.
I can completely understand that. By the way, when you transitioned from the direct-to-consumer to the brands, what was the hardest piece of it all? Was it internally with the company? Was it, shifting the product, the new sales cycle that you have to adapt to? What was the hardest part?
I think all of the above. Look, first, it was when we are talking about 20 years back, the product was really it was substandard, sub-ready. It wasn't there. And hardware. Hey, we had a supercomputer back at the time that my iPhone today is 100 times stronger than that. So it was all very limited resources, limited everything. So, and the quality wasn't there as it is today. So number one was taking the consumers through, hey, what you see today is going to improve. It's almost as good as we would want it to be. It's not there yet. I would need to then, take them through my vision. And there were companies back at the time, that believed that things will improve with time, and were willing to take the journey from the beginning, even when things didn't look amazing at the time. I'm talking about companies like Adidas, companies like Benetton. They had an innovation teams that were more than innovation, and there was nothing back at the time. So they were willing to walk the journey with us, and did amazing things with us. But that was the hardest part, to get more than, a handful of clients. It was, going from that point on, and, that was the early time of early adoption. That was the hardest stuff. And when you don't have enough clients and you don't have enough revenues, you're going there with minimum resources. And that was a fight. And the second thing is then, of course, when this is going slow, taking the team behind you and you know, taking them through the vision.
Yeah,
that's hard as well. But people, I think this is one of the things that we are lucky in this company, is that it's very visual. Everything we do, you see on the screen, and it has that thing that people that are coming to work in Browzwear not necessarily leaving so quickly, because it is really inspiring just to open the computer in the morning and have that 3D, you know, rotating, and that makes your day already, and from the very beginning of the day.
right.
So that's a good thing for us. That was really, you know, I think that, and us being able to, me and my partners being able to take the whole crew with us through, you know, bad days and good days, but keeping the I think keeping the how do you call it, the keeping the attention of everyone towards the lighthouse. That the one thing which was, I mean, through the year, the one thing that held everyone in the company.
Incredible. Avihay, thank you very, very much. This was fantastic. This was really, really enjoyable and inspiring, and I can't wait to see where Browzwear is headed next. And I'm energized by your energy and by your vision and your optimism and your innovative way of thinking, and I just love it. So thank you very, very much, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Oh, thank you for letting me talk and talk. I felt that it was 1 minute, but now I guess the 20 minutes have already gone.
It always feels that way to me as well. Thank you very, very much. Bye.